Edwards didn't take Middlesbrough training and didn't do his press conference and has made it pretty abundantly clear in the past that he wants to manage Wolves at some point in his career. It's his dream job. So I personally think it will happen. Now, in this video, I'm going to be speaking a bit about what I think he'll bring to Wolves tactically, why I think it will go through, and I think he will end up being Wolves manager, and also things that I am also wary of with the appointment of Rob Edwards. And also, before we get into it, there's 67% of you who watch these videos who aren't subscribed, so I'd very much appreciate it if you could click the subscribe button there. We are 17 subscribers away from 2,600, so I'd really appreciate it if you could do so, because it really helps the channel, really helps people see my videos, and I love interacting with all of you guys in the comments as well. So let's get straight into this one. Now, this season, Middlesbrough have been absolutely brilliant, and you could say their form's dropped off ever so slightly, but ultimately, they still have only lost one game in the last 5 and 2 all season. Now, Rob Edwards is obviously going to have a massive impact if he does leave, given the fact that his footballing philosophy, the football he wants to play, is very much instilled in this squad now. And to be honest, I do think if he stays at Middlesbrough, they will go up, or they'll be very, very, very likely to go up in the automatic places. But I do also think that there's a potential that they do drop into the playoffs, just because I think there's a few players in that squad that I'm not overly keen about. But in terms of Rob Edwards as a manager, I think he's doing an exceptional job. As I've said in previous videos, do I think it's a sort of massively positive move for Wolves? Probably not. Is it a massively positive move for him? No, it's a massive risk. Of course it is. He could get another promotion from the Championship on his CV and become a Premier League manager next season with probably a better side, arguably, if Middlesbrough were to spend the money than the current one that Wolves have got. But I do think that in terms of an appointment to get the fans on side and that sort of thing, I think it's going to be absolutely massive. And I do think that there will be that bounce and that natural lift, knowing that someone actually cares about the club who's in charge, as opposed to these owners and opposed to previous managers since Nuno. Really, it's felt like that. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what Rob Edwards could bring. But what can he actually bring tactically to this Wolves side? On the right-hand side, you can see the most common Middlesbrough lineup that Rob Edwards has put out this season. Now, I think there's a few very interesting things to note. Now, of course, Tommy Conway is a player that I really, really rate. I think he's a great, great player, and I think he's someone that can do almost everything. And the fact that he has been playing more as a number 10 this season behind Strelec is really, really interesting. Now, Tommy Conway is... I think he'd get in this current Wolves side, to be honest, as a number 10. I think they have a good chance, but generally, I do think that in terms of the system, I don't think it should change too much if he does come in at Wolves, to be honest. Now, I think this season, there's been so many key factors as to why Middlesbrough have done so well. I think ultimately, Strelec and Conway have clicked together, to be honest. I think getting them two both in the side at the same time is brilliant to see. I think Bergzorg, I think he works his absolute... you know what's off, to be honest. I think Bergzorg, I liked him when he was at Borough. I liked him when he was at Huddersfield, but I think since he's gone to Borough, he's really upped his work rate. I think he's upped his quality on the ball as well. I think he looks more dangerous. And I think, we've seen him drop in and work so hard in that midfield area as well this season. So for me, Bergzorg's a key factor. And I could see that happening on the opposite side with Arias or Jean-Ric Bellegarde, as you can see there. Now, I do think there's a few interesting things to look at in this side, of course. Now, one of them for me is the roles of the fullbacks. Now, Callum Britton for me at right back, I think he's been so interesting this season in terms of he is the more defensive one out of both of those fullbacks. He's still offered something going forward. I think he's got 2 assists this season. And he does offer stuff going forward, which Wolves are going to have to do. They're going to have to take those risks because this Middlesbrough side have taken those risks. But ultimately, I think Krejci and Bueno can deal with most of those risks as a 2 if they are to be the ones that Rob Edwards chooses. Now, ultimately, for me, the left back, though, is the most key area, Matt Targett. Now, if we just take a look at Matt Targett this season, he's been absolutely brilliant. Now, we know, and we've known for a long time, that Matt Targett's got a great delivery on him. He's really consistent generally. His defending's pretty decent, and that wouldn't have been the case if Aston Villa hadn't signed him when they initially came up. And for me, I think that's a massive role for Hugo Bueno. Now, why do I think Hugo Bueno is going to be so key to this? Well, if you look at Matt Targett this season in terms of statistics, he has been right up there. Now, as you can see, Matt Targett has been absolutely brilliant this season. 1 goal, 1 assist from fullback, and generally, probably top 3 or 4 most consistent players in this Borough side. And if we just take a quick look here as well, it's absolutely brilliant, some of the stuff that he's offering, both on and off the ball for Middlesbrough this season. As you can see there, 26 accurate long balls, 18 successful crosses, and the most important one for me is 20 chances created. Now, if we just take a look at the chances created this season from players, Hayden Hackney has got more, and he's the only player in this Borough side that does have more, I believe. And he's someone, again, that Wolves were massively linked to, and I think we will get on to that in a second. But Matt Targett, for me, I think the fact that he's creating 2 chances per 90 from fullback is massive. Now, there are a lot of similarities between him and Hugo Bueno. I think Hugo Bueno's got a yard more pace. I think Hugo Bueno's got a better whipped delivery from wide. I think Matt Targett's got a really good cut back in him. I think he's got a really good sort of, get to the byline, cut it back. I think he's really good at that. But I do think in terms of as a crosser, I think he's still brilliant. And I think that would absolutely play to Jurgen Strand-Larsen's strengths, which we haven't really seen him do, to be quite honest, this season. And for a big man, you could argue he's not very good in the air. But I do think if the delivery was right from Hugo Bueno and in those wide areas, also whoever plays on that right-hand side, I do think they'd have a real chance. Now, as you can see, it's pretty sort of damning on how good he's been this season, with Ryan Giles being up there, of course, 6 assists in the Championship this season, ex-Wolves as well. And then you look at the likes of Marcelino Nunes, who's obviously a very controversial signing from Norwich to Ipswich, but he's done really, really well this season, created a lot of chances. Now, Ipswich haven't been great, but he's been one of the shining lights in that side. And then Mikey Johnston, another player that at Albion, you may not like the fact he's at Albion, but Mikey Johnston, a player that I think is absolutely electric. I think when he gets on that right foot, when he cuts inside, it's very hard to stop him. And the fact that he's in the company of the players like this, especially Manhurf as well, had a really good start to the season with Stoke, and Stoke have been absolutely brilliant this season. One of only 2 teams that are above Middlesbrough in the league. I think it's so interesting to see the key role that Matt Targett has had on the way in which Middlesbrough attack this season. In terms of tactically, I think there will be a lot of similarities in a lot of things that players can do, but I do want to discuss, as I just briefly mentioned, Hayden Hackney. Now, his role is key, and I don't think either of the two, as good as Joao Gomez and Andre are, I don't think either of the two offer as much in the final third, or anywhere close to as much in the final third as Hayden Hackney does. And I do think this is a very, very interesting thing for a few reasons. Now, we know that Wolves have wanted Hayden Hackney for a long time. Could Wolves dip into the transfer market and go and get him in January for Rob Edwards? They could. Should they? I mean, I said they should when they, in the summer. I thought he was a really, really, he was a really good signing. I think around 20 to 25 million they could have got him for pretty comfortably. And I think he would have got into this side. Now, would he have got into this side over them two? Probably not. Would Wolves have to have adjusted in the midfield to suit Hackney as well? I think so, yes. But there's also been rumours, we mustn't forget, that Andre wants to leave or is looking to leave. He's unhappy, and there are rumours that he may leave in January for the likes of Corinthians or Internacional and a few teams in Brazil. So I do think that's an interesting one to take a look at, because I do think Hayden Hackney would be class in this Wolves midfield, and I did say it in the summer. So I think that's another interesting one to discuss. Now, Morgan Whittaker didn't really set the world alight when he first came in from Plymouth, but he's looked a lot more comfortable on that right-hand side this season. Now, I think John Arias has a massive role to play, not only because we haven't seen enough from him and he needs to start performing better at a higher level to actually justify his price tag, but I think he's got a massive role in this particular system. I think he'll be the one creating a lot of things from wide areas. I think he also has to be the one dropping into these areas, picking up the ball and just going with it. I don't think John Arias has done that anywhere near enough in his Wolves career so far. I don't think he's drove at defences. I don't think he's particularly tested defences that much. I thought he was great against Spurs, but ultimately I want to see more from John Arias, and I think all Wolves fans would be in agreement with me. And I do think in terms of the striker, I do think he will go with Jurgen Strand-Larsen, but I think if you put Tolu Rokodara in there, I don't think you're going to struggle with either one in that sort of number 9 position, to be quite honest. I think both of them would be really comfortable. I think they'd both be great. The interesting role for me is Bellegarde. Now, could you see a Tolu Rokodara and Larsen partnership like we've seen with Strellick and Conway so far this season? I don't personally think so. I think they're both too similar. I think stylistically they're both very similar. I think you'd struggle to get a lot out of them. I think you do have the option of going to that 4-4-2 in game as well, though, to sort of solidify the midfield and then also have those two up front when Wolves are perhaps out of possession in terms of the pressing, in terms of the work rate. But even for me, I don't think that happens. So I think either you could see Jean Arias as the 10, you could see Bellegarde as the 10, but there's a few players that I would love to see under Rob Edwards, and I just want to make that abundantly clear. I think Fer Lopez would suit this system so well, by the way. If we just put Fer Lopez in there, just move Bellegarde out for now. I think Fer Lopez would suit this system so well. I think he would find really, really good pockets of space. And Tommy Conway surprised me this season at how well he's done that. Now, we know him really to be a finisher, to be a striker, to be an out-and-out number 9, but he's picked up really good pockets. He's picked up pockets in here. He's picked up pockets, of course, he'll be in this situation, but he's picked up pockets here really well in between those centre-backs and those midfielders. And generally, I think he's found so well with his spaces. Now, for me, I think Fer Lopez is far more intelligent than Tommy Conway in terms of finding those spaces. It's more natural to him, given the fact that he's played as that number 10 for pretty much his whole youth career. So I do think Fer Lopez, for me, had a massive role to play in this game, in this system, under Rob Edwards. And then I do think we could also see a lot more of the likes of Mateus Mane, a player that, we could potentially be seeing against Chelsea today, which I think would be massive, because ultimately his manager is going to be managing Wolves today. So I would love to see him get minutes, and I'd love to see him start. To be honest, just go for it, because you know by the next game there's going to be a new manager after this international break. There will be, regardless of if it's Rob Edwards or not. So for me, I'd love to see a bit of risk taking, but I think Rob Edwards would love to work with Matheus Mane. I think he works with young players really well. We saw that at Luton, and I would love to see it at Wolverhampton Wanderers as well. Now, what are my reservations of Rob Edwards? As I've said previously, I don't think you can question him tactically in terms of he's very adaptable. We have seen that 4-2-3-1 this season. We've seen a 3-4-2-1 this season. We've seen a 4-3-3. We've seen numerous different sort of formations that he can play. So tactically, I don't really have that many concerns. Now, defensively, I do. I think with regards to setting up a defence, coaching a defence, I don't think that's his biggest strength. I'm not saying it's a weakness, because Middlesbrough have been relatively decent defensively this season, despite the odd Watford game and stuff like that. But for me, I don't have great confidence in his ability to coach a back line, which, I think actually could play into Wolves' hands a little bit, given the fact that Krejci very much feels like a leader on the pitch, someone that will take initiative, someone that will take it into his own hands to lead that back line. And he almost feels like a manager on the pitch when you watch him. So I think that won't be as much of a concern with the personnel that currently Wolves do have. But I do think that it's still something to consider. Now, ultimately as well, Wolves fans will be looking at this thinking, you know what, we're just hiring him because he's a Wolves fan, he's a nice bloke. But ultimately, he was brilliant for Luton. He really, really was. However, of course, that Luton side ultimately got relegated again from the Premier League, and that does feel like where this is heading for Wolves. I think it's a positive thing in terms of if Wolves are looking to build for the future, and if Fosun had just said, you know what, we've accepted, we're going down, we'll build for the Championship, I think he gives you very, very good odds of coming straight back up, to be honest. But do Wolves fans want to see that? I know some fans do, because ultimately if Wolves get relegated, Fosun will sell up. But ultimately, let's be honest, Wolves don't want to get relegated. I don't want to see Wolves get relegated. You don't want to see Wolves get relegated. So I think it's a very interesting one. I would love to see it work, and I can see, in terms of from an emotional standpoint, I'm someone that believes in narratives, loves the romance of football, and the idea that a Wolves fan could come in and keep Wolves up and then go on to have a really good career as manager at Wolves. I would absolutely love to see it, and I really do hope it works for Rob Edwards. As I say, I like him. I loved him at Telford. Loved him wherever he's been, really. I think he speaks so well. I think he's you do well to find that many people that can speak as well as he can give as much praise and as much positivity as possible to a fan base. So I do think in terms of that, I think it'll be absolutely brilliant to see, and I really do hope that the risk pays off, because I do like Rob Edwards as a character, and I do want to see Wolves succeed in the Premier League this season. So thank you all for watching this video. I'd really appreciate, as I said at the start of the video, if you would subscribe to the channel. It is free. We are very, very close to 2,600 subscribers. Hopefully, Wolves can win today against Chelsea at 8 o'clock tonight. The video will be out later as well, of course, reacting to that. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.